What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing a recap of the Disney Marathon Weekend 2022, where I did the Dopey Challenge. And for those of you that don't know what that is, basically you're going to be doing 4 races on back-to-back days. So you have the 5K, 10K, half marathon, and the full marathon 4 days in a row. I know it might sound crazy to some people, but definitely was challenging and fun. So we'll talk about all the races as well as the entire weekend, and hopefully I can provide some tips and tricks for someone that might be thinking of doing the challenge as well in the future, or just any Disney race in general. So if you guys are new to this channel, welcome. Please hit that like and subscribe button as well as the bell for the notifications. And to all the returning subscribers, thank you so much for your contribution and support. So let's get this video started. So the Disney Marathon Weekend usually occurs in the beginning of January, usually the first weekend of January after the New Year's. It's a very popular weekend where a lot of people come from all over the world to do these races, as well as visit, the Disney parks. So besides the 4 races, which you can all sign up for individually, those signups usually come out in early spring, like around April, and they sell out super fast. So if you're thinking of signing up for any of those races or the challenges, be sure to do it as soon as you hear that they're released, and also sign up for challenges. So for Disney Marathon Weekend, there's the Goofy Challenge, where you're doing the half marathon and the full marathon, or the Dopey Challenge, which I did, includes all 4 races on 4 consecutive days. So doing these Disney races is definitely not cheap. Definitely cost you for just the race alone. Forget all the other expenses like travel fees and things like that. So for the individual races, it'll probably cost you up to $100 plus dollars for one race. The Dopey Challenge was a total about $600 plus some processing fee. So doing these races is definitely not cheap, but it's probably a once in a lifetime experience, and you get a lot of things and swag for these races, and it's a very well run race. So the unique part of Disney Marathon Weekend is you have people from all walks of life, all pace levels, all fitness levels, and all age ranges doing the same race and all enjoying their time. You definitely can use the Disney races as a competitive race or something to break a record or Boston qualify in the marathon, but a lot of people are just simply doing it for the entertainment and for fun, and which there's nothing wrong with that. So just keep in mind, if you're looking for a very competitive atmosphere, you'll definitely see some of that in Corral 1, but for the majority of the part, a lot of people are here to celebrate, to visit Disney, with their family and their kids, and just to have fun and overall. So I tried not to take these races too seriously. I really wanted to just enjoy the moment and take pictures with all the characters. So that's definitely something to keep in mind before coming to one of these Disney races. And the medals for the 50th anniversary was super cool. Definitely a lot better than last year, in my opinion, and I was kind of surprised with the medals they gave out this year. It looked like they did a really nice job. The medals are pretty much all interactive, so you can kind of turn them or move them, and they just look super cool. I think even better than some of the world major medals, and they're super heavy as well. And it's felt great to have them on while visiting the Disney parks. It's just kind of like show your achievement to everybody visiting Disney, and then you see pretty much everybody walking around with medals as well that also did the race. And it's also, you have to take the the customary picture with all of your medals in front of Magic Kingdom, which a lot of people did. So it's also nice to have that while visiting the parks, and everybody working at Disney and even some of the people visiting and from the different families all congratulate you, which is pretty nice. So it's definitely a great feeling to be wearing those medals and finishing the races at Disney. And the whole Disney atmosphere is true. The place is definitely magical, and it's a great place. And the Disney Marathon Weekend was definitely super fun and enjoyable. So the first thing I want to talk about is hotel or lodging. So that is always very important to me. But good thing in Orlando, you're pretty much at one of the most visited tourist places in the United States. So there's a ton of hotels ranging from lower end to high end everywhere. And there's also a lot of, Airbnbs and villas that you can rent near Orlando. So there's tons of options for lodging. But ideally, if you're going to be doing these races, or especially all 4 of those races, you want to stay somewhere close to Disney If you stay on the Disney hotels, they do have free bus shuttles that will take you all over the place, and especially to the race start line as well, which is very convenient. But if you don't live on the Disney hotels, you're going to have to drive there or take an Uber and Lyft, which they do have drop offs for, which is very nice. But I like to just be in control when I go home and get there. So I drove there, and my hotel was between the airport and Disney, so it was about 13 or 15 minutes away from each location, which was super convenient. So think about that. The races started at 5 a.m. all 4 days, and there was no delay or anything, which is very nice. So I had to leave my hotel pretty much around 3 to 3:30 every day to get into start line by about 4:30 and get ready to for the start of the first corral at 5 a.m. So depending on what your corral is, you might have to get there exactly, at 3 or 3:30. So in the Disney races this past year, there was about 6 corrals filled with, hundreds or if not thousands of people. So not every corral starts in the beginning. Corral 1 was the first to go off, usually at 5 a.m. And if you're driving to Disney, a good thing is there will be free parking, and the traffic control is very nice once you get into Epcot, which is where all the 4 races start. They'll pretty much tell you where to park, so you don't have to worry about finding a spot or fighting for a spot with someone. So that is one thing I really appreciated from Disney, that they pretty much have all their parking and all of the roads, taken care of, so you really don't have to worry much. And all the races start at the same place as well. So once you do the first race, you kind of get the idea of how the next 3 races are going to be if you're doing the Dopey Challenge. And the Dopey Challenge usually starts on a Thursday and it ends on a Sunday. So the Thursday would be the 5K, the Friday would be the 10K, the half marathon would be on Saturday, and the full marathon would be on a Sunday. So the next thing I want to talk about is the Expo. So the Expo will usually open the day before the 5K starts, so on a Wednesday this past year, and it ended after the marathon on Sunday. So one thing to note, the Expo can get very crowded when you're registering for the race, and if you're looking to purchase merchandise, I would highly recommend you purchase it during registration online, so you can make sure that you would have the gear that you want during pickup. In this past year with the supply shortages and everything, there was a madhouse dash to try to get merchandise, and a lot of things were pretty much sold out within the first couple of hours of when the Expo opened. I didn't get there exactly on time, but luckily everything I needed was there. But I hit here people waiting 2-3 hours to get into the Expo when it just opened and still not being able to get what they need. So I don't know how much longer this supply shortage will last, but if you're going to register for next year's race and you definitely want a souvenir or a jacket or a sweater or something from there, I would highly recommend purchasing it beforehand. This way, when you reach the Expo and pick up your bib, you can go to the store merchandise area and pick up all of your purchased items at a separate counter, and you don't even have to stop by the actual Expo where you look at different clothes and things like that. So the merchandise pickup and the actual bib pickup is in a different building, so be sure to check out what you want to do first. And the bib pickup was super simple. If you're doing the Dopey Challenge, you went one way. If you're doing just individual races or everything else, you would go a separate way. Similar to any other, bib pickup or in any big race, I think everything was very well controlled. And everything was just easy, very easy to navigate. I was able to pick up my bib. There wasn't too much, there wasn't like too big of a crowd. I didn't have any issues. And also, if you do happen to, register after the time cutoff day and you want to switch your, corral to like an earlier corral, you can, talk with guest relations and they can verify your time from previous races to get that changed for you, which is very nice. Initially, I registered late and I was put in corral 6, which is the last corral. And the lady was very nice and offered to put me in corral 1 after I verified some of my marathon times with her. So bib pickup is very easy and smooth. It's pretty standard. You go into the building, you get your bib, and you show them your bib pickup email that you will get from Disney before the Expo opens. You just show them that ID on your phone, and you'll be able to give you your bib and your clothes, and you'll go to a separate section to pick up your free clothes or your running clothes that they give you. If you're doing the Disney Challenge, be prepared to be getting a lot of merchandise for the race. So you're gonna get a long sleeve for every one of your race as well. I got a luggage tag pins, bunch of souvenirs from the race. Just if you're gonna come to the race, bring an empty suitcase for all of the merchandise and clothes that you'll be getting from the race. It's just crazy. Knowing Disney, you're gonna probably buy more stuff as well if you're visiting the Disney parks as well. So make sure you have room in your suitcase when you're traveling. So another thing with the expo, like I said, make sure you purchase your stuff beforehand if you really want something. Otherwise, the item might be sold out even on the first day of the expo when you arrive. And also the Disney sizes for all of the clothes seem very strange to me. They're kind of all over the place. For jackets, I have a large, and for the tech shirts, I'm wearing a small, and some hoodies, I fit better in a medium. So everything is very strange in terms of Disney sizing, but seems like for jackets, I would order a size up than your usual size. Maybe hoodies would be your normal size, and for the standard tech running shirts, for some reason, I had to downsize into a small. So make sure you check that before you purchase a garment. You're able to try it out in the expo if you want to see if it fits you or not. But other than that, and if you're purchasing it online, I would be careful just to make sure you get the right size. You are able to return or exchange once you get to the expo, but only if they do have that same item in stock in the size that you need. So be aware of that. And in the expo, of course, all indoor facilities this past year, you would have to wear a mask, so don't forget that as well. And after you complete the expo, there's a nice picture areas where you can take pictures of the Disney, like a fake Disney castle. There's a lot of like the Miles backdrop that you can use to take pictures. So make sure you bring your camera, or you can always have someone else in the line take a picture for you, like I did. The next thing I want to talk about is the Disney Photo Pass, which is super convenient. Although it is a little bit pricey, I think I paid about $200 to have professional or Disney photographers take pictures of me during the race and even in Disney parks after the race. So it beats having to have your camera or phone on you at the whole time during the race. Although there were parts of races where they didn't have like a Disney photographer there, so if you didn't have your phone, you couldn't take a picture with the character there. So be wary of that. But the Photo Pass, I think, was super convenient. They take great photos with nice cameras for you in a lot of locations, such as the Expo, during races, and anywhere, even after when you go to Disney parks after the races or before. So it's a very nice option to have. Then worry about trying to get a selfie stick out or trying to have someone take photo for you. So if that's something to look into, you don't have to purchase it, but I think it's just a very convenient option, especially if you're going to be visiting Disney parks and you want, race photos from during the race, which came out pretty good in my opinion. So the next thing I want to touch upon briefly is the weather. So around January in Orlando, the weather can be unpredictable, like a lot of people probably have said. So one day it could be raining, it could be windy, and then the next day it could be super hot, like 70 or 80 degrees. So always plan ahead. Definitely recommend bringing a poncho in case it rains for just walking around. And also bring a heat sheet that you might have seen at certain marathon races where it's like, a piece of foil that's very shiny that you put over you. It keeps you a little bit warm. Disney did provide those for the first two races of this year for the 5K and 10K since they finished earlier and it was a little bit cooler. But it's also always nice to have your own to bring into the race if you're just maybe doing a couple of the races. And then you can always toss it before the race starts, which is nice. So there were a couple of days where it was very nice and I was okay in just shorts and a singlet. But there were some days where I really needed that heat sheet and it was raining also as well. So it was a little bit cold. So it's nice to have all that ready. So the next topic I want to talk about, and probably one of the most important one, is race day. So the races all happen at 5 a.m. On this past year, and I was in Corral 1, so I was the first wave to go off, so I had to be there before 5 a.m. To give you an idea, my hotel was 15 minutes away. I got up at around 3 a.m., ate a bagel and some bananas, and left my hotel at about 3:15. Got there around 3:30. Be wary, there's a little bit of a walk from the parking lot to the actual race starting area. For the 5K, it's not as far, but when you get to the half marathon, the full marathon, there's an extra almost like a mile walk to get to a different starting line as opposed to the 5K and 10K starting line, which is a little bit closer. So there's about a half a mile to a mile walk from the parking lot to the the starting area. So be wary of that, which can take another 15 to 20 minutes. If you're driving. And if you're taking the Disney shuttle, that's a little bit more convenient. They're always running. I don't know the interval, but I think they come very often, and they drop you off literally right in front of Epcot. So there's not much walking you have to do in the parking lot. And also, you can always get dropped off by an Uber or Lyft. There are designated areas for those ride-share drop-off, which is also very convenient and very close to the entrance of Epcot. So if you're driving, make sure you leave your hotel early. If you're in Corral 1, if you come late or they close the corral, you're gonna be stuck in the back of probably Corral 6. So make sure you wake up, set your alarm, or set multiple alarms just to make sure you wake up. So once you get into the starting area, there's gonna be food, water, bag check, which you'll get at the expo, and you can only use that clear see-through bag for your bag check. So make sure you bring that exact bag. There's going to be tons of porta potties for, strangely, I didn't have any issues with fighting for porta potties, like some races that I've been to, which is very nice. Maybe because it's due to COVID, so the numbers went down. But there, in the area, there's going to be areas you can take photos. There are professional photographers or Disney photographers taking photos for you. There's a DJ, there's music going on. So it's like a big party in the starting area. And they usually open the corrals up about an hour before. And people start filling up the corrals right away, especially if you're in Corral 1, because about like 15 or 20 minutes before the actual race starts, they open up the corrals and let you actually go to the beginning of the starting line. So everybody wants to be the first to go off. So you can see all of them start funneling about 15 to 20 minutes before the race for Corral 1. So be wary of that. And you can also bring a water bottle inside the race, and you can check the rest of the stuff because for the 5K and 10K at least, you had to pay for water and food. But for the half and full marathon, they had, big like stations for water, so you could get free water there. But it's always nice to have a bottle to have with you, or you can walk for those distances to get to those farther starting lines and have a bottle with you and then throw it out right before the race. So for the half and full, I had to get up a little bit earlier just to make sure, I got a spot and I was able to make it to the starting line on time. For some reason, the traffic was okay for both the 5K and 10K. The half and the full, they kind of changed the traffic patterns a little bit and closed some of the entrances. So I had to take a couple of detours. So be wary of that. So you might need extra driving time if you're driving your own car there. So for the half and full, I would give yourself extra time to be there for the parking, the walking, and getting everything set if you're dropping back off. So during the race, if you're doing the 5K and 10Ks, you'll have a lot of your time running inside the Disney parks. For the 5K, I believe we just ran around Epcot and started in the parking lot area. On 10K, I believe we got to see a park, and some of the other parts were just basically, the highways around Disney. So, and for the half and full, you're going to be running on the highways a lot. So if there's parts of races where it's just absolutely dead, I mean, they'll have like music and speakers lined up all over the, the highway. So there's music playing and, maybe videos of Disney movies, and you'll see other runners with you. But overall, there's a lot of highway running, which can seem boring to some people, so be wary of that. The full marathon, you'll be able to run around all four of the Disney parks, and also a little bit of the Blizzard Beach. But that wasn't that exciting. But the other parks, you're going to be running around highways a lot, so just take notice. But they do provide entertainment throughout the race, like characters where you can stop and take photos of. For the 5 and 10K, there was a big line for a lot of the photos because, it's a shorter race. But for the longer races, as you continue the races, especially in Corral 1, there was hardly anybody waiting in line. So you could pretty much snap a picture and be off running again right away. Again, some areas of characters don't have the Disney photographers, so you'll need your own cell phone. So make sure if you want all the characters' photos, you have your cell phone with you. Otherwise, it's super convenient. If you have a photo pass, just have the Disney photographers take a photo for you with the characters. And due to COVID, obviously, you are not able to stand right next to the characters, so they'll be about 6 feet apart. Some of the characters have like an X on the floor where they tell you exactly where to stand so they can take your picture and you'll be off so the next runner can take their picture. So it's a very well-oiled machine, and Disney have all of this figured out. So the races run very smooth. There's water stations almost at every mile for the longer races, and I never had any issues with lack of water or food. In the marathon, there's water and Gatorade pretty much in every station, and some stations also had bananas. And then there was around Blizzard Beach, I think it was mile 18 or through 20, you got honey stingers. They give you literally a whole pack of honey stingers, which is nice. Obviously, you can't eat all of it. But the one thing to note that the Gatorade that they provided was in one of those small, like a round dish kind of cups where you can't squeeze and kind of sip out of as a runner, which was super annoying. I pretty much spilled the Gatorade at every station while trying to drink it, because it was like a cocktail plastic cup and not one of those paper cups where you can squeeze and run and drink at the same time. For some reason, the water was in those cups, but the Gatorade was in those weird cocktail plastic cups, so be wary of that. Bananas, there's a couple of stations for bananas in the marathon. So overall, there was plenty of water and food during the race. Although a lot of the race was pretty monotonous. You're running on highway roads, especially starting out super early in the morning. You can't see anything. It's just super dead and quiet and dark in some areas, which is it might be strange for some people. And running on lack of sleep is definitely very difficult. But the entertainment throughout the race definitely made you pumped you up and got you to finish the race. And it's definitely magical when you run through Magic Kingdom in a couple of the longer races, and there's people lined up cheering you on. It's definitely a great time, an emotional moment, and you just feel super excited. And you get to run through Magic Kingdom in a couple of the races as well, right through the castle, which was pretty cool. So definitely a fun, entertaining race, and Disney has everything set up. They've been doing this for a while. Runs very and very smooth, and it's definitely a great experience to have. But as like I said before, a lot of the races are on the highways and not actually in the parks. So be prepared for some boring parts of the race. So not everything is super exciting, but they try their best to keep you entertained with music. And the volunteers and the staff, I forgot to mention, they're super nice and friendly, and they're just wonderful people, coming out super early in the morning to support you and to give you food and water. It's definitely great to see them, and they're all super cheerful and try to cheer you on as you run by. So if you're in the corral 1 or the earlier corrals, and if you're quick, you'll pretty much finish the race within 3 or 4 hours. By that time, the sun hasn't really fully set. But if you're in the later corrals, you might be dealing with the heat or the sun if it's super hot. I know in this past year, a lot of people complained with the marathon where it was super warm that day. And then one part of the race on the highways, you had the sun literally rising and blasting right in front of you. You couldn't see, and it was super warm. And a lot of people just, couldn't finish, or it was just super hard and hot. So be wary of that. Check the weather before the race. And make sure you're hydrated throughout the race, even in the earlier mornings when it's cooler, when you don't feel dehydrated. It'll definitely come to bite you later on. One also thing to note, in the full marathon, you're going to be running through a waste, I think, complex or facility. It looked like it was just very strange. There's some industrial building, and it kind of smelled a little right before you get to Animal Kingdom. So be wary of that. Animal Kingdom was pretty cool. There was animals at some parts of the race, whereas there's people taking like a sheep out. But overall, if you're quick, there's not a lot of people in the parks yet, so you won't be able to see all of the visitors coming in the parks. And then when I was about mile 24, then I saw a huge line of people at Hollywood Studios lining up to get in the parks, but I was already almost done. So Disney planned their races super early this year at 5 a.m. To help with the crowds, so the racers can be finished and before the crowds actually go in to the parks. And also with Disney races, if you're not in the first corral or you're in the later corral, just be prepared that it might get crowded during certain areas of the race. Not all parts of the race. There's wide open roads where there's plenty of people can run on. There are very narrow parts of the race where you could probably fit 2 or 3 people horizontally. So be wary of that if you're in the later parts of the corral. So just be respectful. A lot of people are walking as well, and I guess the traditional sign if you're gonna stop and walk is to raise your hand. And traditionally, if you're gonna walk, you probably stay to the right side, and if you're running, you would stay on the left side. So just be wary that there might be people walking, and just be respectful of each other. Everybody's here to have fun and have a good time. So that was a lot of information, and hopefully I didn't miss anything. There was a lot of things going on with that weekend, so it's probably some things slipped my mind. But if I were to offer some, a best advice, it would probably be the following. Number one is, book early. And if you have AAA, use those rates because a lot of hotels give you discounts with AAA. And if you're staying long term, you get long term rates as well instead of, a short term rate. So if you're going to visit the parks after the race weekend as well, take advantage of those rates. So book early, and some hotel companies, I know like Marriott, you can book hotels way in advance and don't have to pay anything, literally just to hold your reservation until, maybe a couple days before the actual check-in day. So that's a great opportunity to, book multiple hotels, and then you can decide later which ones you want to keep. And always, if you want to check for the best rates, make sure you check every other day or every week. The rates change pretty much all the time. So I oftentimes cancel reservation and rebook with a cheaper rate. So be wary of that. And if you're booking a car, same thing. You can book your car reservation way in advance and not have to pay right away. You can check every day. Also, the rates change. So if you want to get a car, make sure you check your rates every day, and you can get a lower rate. And you never know. I started the race with a $500 a week car, and then ended up right before the race with only a $280 for the week car. So that it definitely pays off to check the rates all the time. Next thing is, if you want to do the races, make sure you sign up early as soon as the registration opens. They sell out super quickly. This is a very popular race that people keep doing over and over again. And there's also people from all over the world that want to do this race. So if it gets sold out, there are opportunities for it to reopen again, but they're few and far between. And you also have the option of running with a charity for the races, and usually to do like a dopey challenge, which is all 4 races. It might cost you up to between $1,000 almost like $2,000 to do all 4 races. So make sure you take advantage of the signups as soon as they open. They sell out very quickly. And make sure if you want merchandise or clothes, make sure you buy it during registration so you don't have to fight during the expo to get your gear with everybody else. So you'll have whatever you need, and not have to worry about getting to the expo on time. So another thing to keep in mind. And also weather, make sure you check a week before, and also when you're there, check it the night before to make sure the weather doesn't change drastically. So always be prepared for different types of weather while you're in Disney during January. Everything is very unpredictable. And also make sure you bring a poncho. You could use it even after the race weekend if you're visiting Disney parks. We did get caught in a downpour and we didn't have a poncho, so we got drenched. And to buy a poncho in Disney is cost an arm and a leg. So make sure you have one of those cheap ponchos you can get online or even at a convenience store. They'll definitely save you when you need to make it to shelter or run to your car or anywhere. When it starts downpouring in Florida, those rains don't last long, but when they do rain, they do come down hard. Also, next are some of the things, that I can think of that you should bring. You'll never know that you'll need it. First thing is one of those heat sheets. You can buy a bunch on like Amazon. They're fairly cheap. They're basically thin metallic foil that you can drape over yourself to give you some heat before the race on those cold, brisk, early morning days if the race starts early. You can always toss them away, or you can keep them and put them in your backdrop right before you enter the corrals. So that's good to have. Next, bring multiple running shoes if you're doing more than one race. You never know if the race is going to rain and your shoes will be destroyed. And nothing like wearing a smelly pair of shoes and you having to run in those for 3 days straight after the first race. So always have multiple pairs of shoes just in case one gets destroyed or wet, and you can always alternate one or the other to give your shoe a break. And same with gear, make sure you bring enough gear in case one gets wet, or unless you can do laundry. I brought a kit for pretty much every single race that I did. So always make sure you have the extra gear in case you need to switch. And of course, socks. Make sure you have plenty of socks as well. as well as change of clothes for after the race. You can put that in your bag drop, so if your clothes are drenched after the race, you have a nice towel or dry clothes that you can put on and change, so you're not running around or with wet and sweaty clothes, which could be very uncomfortable. Another tip is to set up your clothes before you go to bed before each race. This way you're not waking up at 3 a.m. half asleep trying to figure out what clothes to wear while rushing to eat and get ready to go to the race. So a good idea is to lay out all of your gear on the bed right before you go to sleep. This way everything's prepared and that's one less thing to worry about. And of course during these times, I would highly recommend bringing a mask with you and wearing it throughout until maybe even the beginning of the race, where you can take it off. You're going to be in crowds of people, and so it's going to put you at risk for getting COVID, even if you have the vaccine, or all the shots. It's just a very high risk area, and before you come here, you understand the risk of participating in an event with this amount of people. I did see, on some forums that people did get sick with Omicron after, the Disney race, which was unfortunate. But, you're in a crowd with thousands of people and there's a lot of breathing going on. So it's a very, risky place to catch COVID. So just be careful and be cautious. So that's all the tips and advice, that I could think of. But, if you're doing the Dopey Challenge, it's going to be tough. It's especially with the lack of sleep. It's trying to fall asleep. I feel like was the hardest challenge than actual during race day, which is more like a celebration of all your training. But Disney's pretty lenient with the time. So if you're not a fast runner, you can definitely walk some of the races as well, and it'll still be fun. So hopefully this gave you some idea of the race, and if you're looking to do a Disney Marathon weekend race or the Dobie Challenge in the future, hopefully this will help you. It's definitely a challenge and a fun time, so I highly recommend doing it. And so if you guys have any other questions, comments, or feedback, please feel free to leave them down below. Hope you guys are staying safe and your training's going well, and I'll talk to you guys on the next run.